On today's episode, lock up your daughters and hide your plastic water bottles, cause we're going sexin'! We watch John Waters' A Dirty Shame, today on Nothing Movies.
Y'all ready for this? Y'all ready for this?
I don't know why you did that. I played along with it, but I don't believe that song plays in the movie.
No, it doesn't.
If you wanted to do a song that played in the movie, you could have done "My girl is red hot, your girl ain't noodly squat,"
or any of the other wonderful tunes that appear in this movie, like that one about pussy.
From John Waters' own home recordings. I believe that was. Yes, that was an old Victrola that he had with his next door neighbor. He just set that up and he just forgot. That was just her morning routine. Just put that on an old wax cylinder. I don't know. Welcome back, all of you who wish to self-identify to Nothing Movies, where we ask the question, the fuck is this? And boy, is that question
never more
apropos
never before
for today's episode.
Been so accurate.
This is a podcast where we go through the careers of actors, or in the case of today, a filmmaker, to find their most anonymous and culturally untalked about movies and decide whether or not they've got a certain something, or if they're just a whole lot of nothing. I'm Kaz Lescard.
And I'm Jameson Rafter.
Today we're talking about 2004's A Dirty Shame, which to date is the final directorial effort of John Waters, which I'm just going to say is also a dirty shame. Jameson, please introduce our guest.
Oh, certainly, Kaz. Joining us through this adventure here will be the young lady who inspired this entire idea, because we were chatting up at our favorite bar and mentioned that I should be a guest on sometime. And she says, oh, well, let's talk about a John Waters movie. I love John Waters stuff. And the rest is history. Our guest today is a freelance weirdo in her own words. The lovely and talented Chloe Eldritch, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I would have paid you guys to let me yap about John Waters, so...
Oh, it's not too late.
Yeah.
We can work out the details.
You guys are getting paid?
After the fact, yeah.
Yes, I will give you that afterwards. Do you take nickels?
Only if they're filthy and odd smelling.
That's the only kind I have.
And discolored. Welcome, Chloe. Lovely to meet you. John Waters. What a fascinating subject for us to talk about. As I said, we've only just begun covering filmmakers. I say that with a bit of an asterisk because the only other filmmaker we've discussed up until now has been Alan Smithy, a person who does not exist.
We kind of technically roped in David Lynch not too long ago and breezed over the Coen brothers.
I mean... Yeah, we're
tangentially.
We're starting to tangentially talk about filmmakers, but we're doing so through the actors that they are working with.
And before we got here, we touched base on Robosaurus at one point. So
I mean, that is true. Robosaurus did direct a lot of TV in the late '90s, but we only briefly talked about that. But this is this is not a Tracey Ullman episode. This is a John Waters episode. We're talking about the man because really, I mean, he worked with famous actors, he worked with celebrities and whatnot, but the star of every John Waters movie has always been John Waters, even if he himself has never played a primary role in them, but he is the auteur behind it, and that's largely helped by the fact that he has such a front-facing public persona, much like David Lynch. Even if you've never seen a John Waters movie, you know what John Waters is all about.
Oh, yeah.
Because he makes lots of public appearances. He's always keen to put up front what his whole deal is.
He's very recognizable with that pencil-thin mustache of his.
Yep, he really took that back. No one else really followed in his footsteps, but then...
Can't imagine why.
But then again, you know what? He just did it so well, everyone else assumed that they didn't have to. But I'm gonna start off this episode by making a bit of an admission. A lot of John Waters' stuff, primarily, his early films are still a bit of a blind spot for me. I did want to do my homework for this, and I wanted to see if I could knock a couple of off before recording this episode. What I discovered, though, is shockingly, a lot of his movies are not streaming right now. They are very hard to find.
I can feel that because corporations do not like John Waters movies. They do not want to stream them, and he has always been under the scrutiny of corporate censorship. It's always been a thing. I was really impressed with the online archive for showing me that, because there was a bunch of other things. But I will say, Criterion is really good for that. Yeah. They've got Multiple Maniacs on there, I know for sure. Pink Flamingos, I've always just pirated that one.
which
As you should.
Which I'm sure he would approve of.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, actually, because of John Waters, I started doing petty shoplifting. For the thrill of it, I love grocery store cheese aisle hates to see me coming. Oh, man. That little Mio.
You got your picture in the back, yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
The little Mio, that was a 5-finger discount.
I refuse to pay for those.
They're
You've never visited the same grocery store twice.
Oh, I do all the time. I wave at them. We're on good terms.
For a thimble full of colored sugar liquid, they charge way too much.
Yeah, that's why I refuse to pay for it. Also, fuck corporations.
Yeah, and they're the perfect shoplifting size too. They're practically begging you to take them. Yes, but I have never seen Pink Flamingos.
The Trilogy of Trash.
The Trilogy of Trash. I have always been aware of Pink Flamingos, of course, because it famously is the movie that
Divine is
Divine is in all of them.
But probably the one that is like
actually Divine is not in Desperate Living.
No. But it's like that's the one that's put John Waters on the map that took him outside of the.
Oh no, Multiple Maniacs
really?
is already doing that. I feel okay, and I would like to just jump in here and
Please
say
do,
that
yes.
I feel like Multiple Maniacs needs more recognition. Same
All
thing
right.
with Mondo Trasho, and I think the reason for why we are always more on Pink Flamingos, I think it's because it got a wider distribution, first of all. It was notorious for having like the bar fags and stuff as well. But I think because it's in color and the other ones are in like really gross looking black and white,
Sure.
those are not as like, young people get weirded out by black
Sure,
and white
absolutely,
movies.
yeah. It can reach a wider audience if it's in color.
Yeah, I think if it was released in color, and he actually has said that he would love to see it re-released in like a puke green. I think that would be fantastic. But Multiple Maniacs is pretty gnarly as well, and that I think actually is what put him on the map. I think Mondo Trasho actually first.
Mondo Trasho was his first feature film.
It was a short film. No, Multiple Maniacs was his first feature. Mondo Trasho was a short film. And then before that, it was, I think, Eat Your Makeup was pretty notorious. And then Hag in a Black Leather Jacket was the first one.
Can I just say, you're doing all of my work for me. This was all the stuff that I wrote out about like John Waters's like background like before this.
You have me on here for a reason.
You just gone through like my first 2 pages, so I don't need to go through any of this shit because you just touched on it.
Isn't it great, Kaz, not having to do anything?
In a far more concise way than I would have as well too. So that definitely helped. The thing with Pink Flamingos is it was a big, I feel like, schoolyard movie that even if you hadn't seen it, it passed from person to person to person. That was the movie that ends with someone picking up a dog turd, eating it, and then smiling at the camera with shit in their
Which
teeth.
is funny because if you watch the movie, I feel like that's like the least insane thing that is done in it. Like, I mean, by the time you get, maybe it's just because I've seen it so many times, but by the time I find I get to the dog shit scene, I'm like, I watched 2 people fuck a chicken to death.
Right.
So I don't know about that. Spoilers. Oh, I'm sorry. The movie came out in 1972.
Are those the titular Pink Flamingos of the title?
No. That would be wild.
I just think that's something that I've always dared myself to watch one of these years, and I guess I've never gone around to it, A, because it is hard to locate unless you want to buy it on physical media, and B, I could put up with a lot of stuff. I have a very strong stomach. I just always kind of like balk a little bit at poo play. I don't really need to see people eating poo.
Again, I can't stress enough, by the time you get to the dog shit scene,
you'll be so
exhausted
by everything. Just be all like, sure. It's also like the last thing that happens.
It is.
Right?
I was going to say it is the very last scene. So you can honestly probably just stop the movie there if you don't want to watch it. But then I would call you a coward. So fun fact: Pink Flamingos was the second ever John Waters movie I saw. I watched Hairspray the remake, which I don't don't even think I can consider that a John Waters movie. So Pink Flamingos is the first John Waters movie
I mean, Hairspray, the musical, and the movie musical are only tangentially John Waters films because they are based on the film that he did. He had nothing to do with writing the Broadway musical.
I still it's a good movie, but it's not a John Waters movie.
Yeah.
You can kind of hear his voice in it because, as you were saying actually before, that John Waters is always like the star of all of his movies, even though he's not on screen. I agree with that because you can hear his voice in pretty much every single iconic line of dialogue. Like when we get into talking about A Dirty Shame, there was a couple bits that...
It's like half of my notes is just dialogue
just
that
one-liners after
there was
one-liner.
a couple, like that's actually pretty much my notes too, is me just quoting it and trying to remember where in the movie that was quoted. I tried to keep track of that. It's so funny. I think that all of his auxiliary characters, like not even the focal points,
the
tend
Dreamlanders.
to have... No, I mean the characters in the films that aren't the main focus tend to have some of the best like dialogue moments.
Yeah.
It's just the little one-offs that get me, you know.
And a lot of times those tiny roles are played by non-professional actors, just people that he just found and he liked the vibe of them.
Like Edie, Big Edie from Pink Flamingos, she has a whole thing about eggs. And so relatable. Eggs are amazing.
I've seen this clip where she's like, "Oh, the Eggman is here, Mr. Eggman."
So obsessed about the Eggman.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she marries him. Get that bag, girl. So that actress, Edith, he found her. She was like running around little like trash thrift shop where she would go digging in the trash and hand out these little 25-cent grab bags to people, and it's just gift wrapped like pill bottle lids and stuff. And it's just like, well, they can't all be winners. And she was so funny. She would just she had her own little like weirdo thing going on, and he liked the cut of her jib, I guess. But so many of the Dreamlanders, actually, I have a whole list of Dreamlanders that appear in A Dirty Shame. That I'm very excited to talk about.
I mean, as what I am now going to call the Waters scholar in this room currently right now, A Dirty Shame must be fascinating for you to watch as someone who has watched the filmography of Waters from beginning to end, because you do see people that were in his films in like the late 60s still appearing in this early 2000s film.
Oh, yes. I thought that was really fun. It's always like a good little Easter egg. And actually, the only other movie I hadn't seen besides A Dirty Shame was Pecker. I had never even heard of it. And man, that's a nothing movie. But it was...
Coming soon, an episode on that.
It was like... I would come back and talk about it, actually. But like, I felt like that was almost autobiographical. But some of the moments from Pecker kind of reoccur in A Dirty Shame, and I can talk about it later, but there's moments in A Dirty Shame that I think were supposed to be in Pecker originally, based on how I've heard John Waters talk about both of the movies. It sounds like there's some like central plot points that are kind of supposed to be like for each other. I think they were supposed to go in Pecker, but Pecker is not a very fun. Well, it's just weirdly wholesome, even though it's got like lesbian strippers and all kinds of weird shit.
That's the most wholesome thing I can think of.
But I found it boring, and I didn't like Edward Furlong in it.
In spite of the lesbian strippers, yeah.
Yeah, that bit was really funny. The teabagging bit was really funny too. I can get back to that as well.
All right,
I have to put eyes on this.
Note to self: watch Pecker.
Yeah.
Parentheses John Waters film. Because if I just write down watch Pecker, then that's something that I'm already doing.
Yeah,
So
you go to the video store and be like, "Excuse me, sir, I'd like to see Pecker."
Go to the video store.
You go to Black Dog Video.
I'm just going to get into my...
into your time machine.
Yeah, I have to get into my time machine to go to Black Dog Video, R.I.P.
Not me worried that I stepped into a time machine and that when I opened the door, you guys will have transported me back to like 1997 or something.
Hey, a good year.
Yeah.
Great year for movies.
Yeah.
My movie reawakening year, 1997, definitely.
I think for me too, that was when Mulan came out.
Right, yeah. I just remember 1997 was like the Titanic year, and that was like the first year that I like started paying attention to like the Oscars, and I started tracking like who was in a movie or whatever.
Valid. I was 3 years old in 97.
Moving right along from that. So I really haven't seen a lot of the early Waters' stuff, but I'm far from a Waters novice. My favorite John Waters film with a bullet is Serial Mom.
I was going to say Serial Mom's my favorite too.
I think that's one of the funniest goddamn movies ever. Kathleen Turner is
amazing.
She should have been nominated for an Oscar for that. It's just one of the funniest
Ricky
comedic
Lake
performances.
And
Yeah, everyone is great in that. And my parents also rented the original Hairspray growing up, years before the musical was a thing. And then to a much lesser extent, I think I've seen Crybaby once. I didn't really care for it, but I will admit that I probably need a rewatch on that one.
I like Crybaby, and for the viewers at home, I'm wearing my Crybaby t-shirt.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah, I like that movie. It's probably like lower ranked on my top 5 if I had a top 5, but I still really like it.
It's also his only musical.
I do really...
Because Hairspray isn't really a musical. But Crybaby is a musical.
Yeah, right? I like Crybaby as well for the background story with Tracy Lords, where she was like escaping like a really abusive like pornography situation, and the FBI would come and raid the sets all the time trying to get her to like sell out members of the mob, and she never did it, badass.
Wow.
But apparently when she would be crying on set, Patty Hearst, who was there, who I have a big rant about Patty Hearst.
We're putting a big pin in Patty Hearst. If we're talking about John Waters, then obviously that's
Patty Hearst would comfort her on set and go, "Don't worry, dear, we've all been arrested here."
Talk about big dog and Patty. So, not everyone has that story.
I mean, John Waters was also arrested. A whole crew was arrested for Mondo Trasho because they illegally had male nudity on the John Hopkins campus. It was a scene where there's
is that why people refer to John Hopkins as another word for the male member?
Oh, I've never heard that.
No, you've never heard anyone refer to it as a John Hopkins before?
Not mine, personally.
Well, there we go. Sorry,
First times for everything, I guess. It was a scene with a naked male hitchhiker, and Divine and that actor who played the naked male hitchhiker were the only ones to get away and not get charged.
Yeah, Divine strikes me as someone who ran away from the cops a lot.
Oh, everybody on set ran, but then like those two were the only two who didn't.
Yeah, well, we've inadvertently gone backwards through his filmography, but we can go through and we can touch on some of the other ones. But before we do that, Jameson, what's your John Waters story? Have you seen any of the films? Do you have any
Well, probably unsurprising to you, I haven't seen any John Waters film up until, very recently. And after watching this, I'm probably going to have to put some eyes on him. I liked this movie a little more than I thought I was going to.
I would start with Crybaby and Serial Mom.
I've already said on a previous episode that Jameson should check out Serial Mom. So now we're getting like a double recommend.
Yeah. But my experience with him before that was, I want to say, I remember him cameoing on one episode of The Simpsons. I was aware I was aware of who John Waters was, but growing up, just getting like little bits and pieces of the films that I saw them put out, where we really wanted to push the envelope and almost like in an exploitative kind of way, go for the shock value factor. I kind of, and this is not fair to him, I realize now, I kind of lumped him into the same category as what Troma was trying to do, which is just kind of like, they're just trying to be tasteless for the hell of it, for the sake of it. And I was completely mistaken on that. I think
no, I actually think that's a pretty fair area, because like
they're roughly of the same.
They make different things, but like John Waters probably is a Troma fan. Like I haven't looked into that, but like it would not surprise me. He loves garbage, so
and
schlock.
And also as someone who's just made a couple of fun home movies with his friends and cast people in like directed projects that I did, I greatly admire him for just having, like, yes, you said he has multiple high caliber actors with him, but also he has
his Dreamland friends.
Just the Dreamlanders out there, and that is always the dream for any fledgling director who's just like making a bunch of farting around with a camera and with his friends. You kind of hope that I'm going to strike gold because I think I see something there, and if I can just capture that magic on film, then I'll have my movie.
Yeah, I mean, he had the Dreamlanders, which were people that he just like met in his regular life, and then of course Divine was his childhood friend. He was
they used to like skip school and go see vaudeville burlesque.
I mean, that's awesome. I think.
Yeah, I mean, like up until Divine tragically passed away far too young. Basically, Divine was his muse. Like that was who he was writing and producing these movies for, and it came from just like a lifelong friendship friendship that they were able to cultivate, and really that is the sort of dream for a lot of like young fledgling filmmakers who like make films in their backyard. It's the same trajectory as like the Coen brothers or Sam Raimi and his brothers and
Kevin Smith casting Jason Mewes.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's you see a lot of this in the independent film world, and yeah, I'll echo what Chloe said. I think Troma and John Waters films share a lot of DNA. I would say the main difference is that John Waters makes queer Troma films with more of an emphasis on that community.
Yeah.
It's both also like the two of them make movies to gross you out, but just in totally different kind of formats, I think.
Which is always kind of a tough sell for me when they're like intentionally trying to get a rise out of me. I almost like, I'll cross my arms. I could absolutely see myself being like in the villainous camp in any of these John Waters movies for having like a real stick in the mud attitude.
You still see people attempting to capture the John Waters magic today. This is not a film that I have seen, but I remember earlier this year I was at the Rio and they were playing a trailer for a film that came out called The Pee Pee Poo Poo Man.
Oh, I really want to see that.
Yes.
I've heard really good things.
Which is based on a true story about someone who would go around and throw bags of pee pee and poo poo at people, and then they would get covered with the pee pee and poo poo, and they'd go, "Oh no!" So I don't know how successful that's doing, or if that's going to lead to like a career for that filmmaker. But people are still giving that the old college try, and they're attempting to shock and surprise you.
The Velocipaster as well. I can't remember the director's name for that, but that's kind of in the same kind of area of like just silly for the fun of it, but it's also pretty well like
there's a great movie I saw a couple of years ago called Butt Boy.
Butt Boy was actually something I was thinking about too.
Yeah. And that's like a movie that takes its premise really seriously, but it's the most absurd premise of a guy who can't stop shoving things up his butt. And it starts small, but then it like graduates to like children.
Yep.
So but there's like a detective story. Like the detective story is played absolutely straight, like grieving mothers and everything. I'm really glad you brought it up. I want to circle back to the Simpsons episode because I do feel like people of our generation, that was our first exposure to John Waters as a person. And I think, as you were saying, Chloe, I still think that's one of the best classic Simpsons episodes out there.
For me, being like just maybe like a touch on the younger side, when I saw that episode of The Simpsons, I obviously would have no awareness of like who John Waters was and the significance of that cameo. But for me, it was significant because that's one of the first positive portrayals of a queer person, a gay man.
And at the time, I think it was like 1993 when it came out.
Transgression.
It was one of the most progressive portrayals of a gay person on television, period. And it was a really fascinating examination of the concept of homophobia. I mean, the episode is called Homer's Phobia.
And like his phobia is played entirely laying into his stupidity and on the entire matter of it, and every decision he makes in his attempt to course correct what he thinks Bart's going into, like it just blows up in his face every fucking time.
And also we get that iconic like scene of Bart in Millhouse jumping around with the little wigs on. Like, oh my god, I really love that.
Or the steel mill.
It's so endlessly quotable. Well, this is what I wanted to come to, is that it's a great example of John Waters being involved. I don't know if he helped with the writing of it, but like him showing up just as like a guest actor on a script that I'm going to assume was written primarily by straight people. It's a great example of like a piece of queer art that has found its way into the queer lexicon. Like I have seen t-shirts and mugs that say hot stuff coming through on it, and that's just like, that wasn't a thing that anyone said until that episode, and now everyone says it.
One of my friend of the family's like favorite lines of any Simpsons episode. He's like a massive Simpsons fan, but one of his favorite lines is, "I like my beer cold, my TV loud, and my homosexuals flaming."
Oh, God. Okay. We can't spend the entire episode just quoting that episode. But I think we've touched on most of this. I mean, of course, John Waters, a famous Baltimore native. He is the Baron of Baltimore, the Sultan of Sleaze.
I learned that after watching this.
Also, if you had ever seen the musical version of Hairspray, that's literally the opening number is "Good Morning Baltimore," and that's just again cementing his voice throughout all of this stuff. But yes, he grew up alongside Divine. He got his first taste of entertainment when he would stage violent Punch and Judy puppet shows for neighborhood children. And as a teen, he and Divine would sneak into the local beatnik bar Martix, where they would meet many of their future collaborators. We've gone through the majority of his filmography already. He attended the New York University, but he was kicked out of his dormitory for smoking pot. Smoking pot, man!
Call the feds.
Bro.
Look at him.
What haven't we talked about? We haven't talked about Polyester, which is
my third favorite.
That's like your third favorite. That's a unique one because it was up until that point
a first above ground.
A first above ground.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first time he allowed someone else to be his director of photography, and it was also the first time that he worked with like an actual Hollywood actor in Tab Hunter, who wasn't just someone that he found at a bar or whatever.
He was a closeted homosexual as well, and he kind of came out by making out with Divine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we've really covered basically everything. We covered Hairspray, which was sadly the last film he made with Divine. We covered Crybaby, which was the first film that he made with Patty Hearst. Should we take the Patty Hearst pin out of this now?
I love talking about Patty Hearst. What a lady. I don't know what you've got written down, but just, man.
Well, this is actually not the first time.
Just what Kaz knows.
This is actually not the first time we've discussed Patty Hearst. A long time ago, we covered a movie called Pottersville, which inexplicably was produced by Patty Hearst. Mm-hmm. So that was the first time we brought that up. Not too long ago, I was listening to a true crime podcast, and I read a few articles online about the whole Patty Hearst debacle, because of course I knew that she of course was the granddaughter of William Randolph Hearst, and she got kidnapped by a group called the Sudanese Liberation Army?
Symbionese Liberation Army.
Symbionese Liberation Army.
Symbionese.
Which is just like a bullshit word, right? It's not even like it's not like a country or anything.
Yeah, it's just nonsense.
Well, because it's
a terrorist organization.
It's a terrorist organization. I was under the assumption for many years that she was captured by sort of like black militants, and what I found out through
not far off.
The
no, not black. Sorry, I was thinking like in like black outfits.
I mean, they were wearing black outfits, yes. What I found out through the podcast that I listened to was that it was a group made out of primarily white people who wanted to be black militants, and led by a single black man who was kicked out of all the other black militant groups for basically being an insane person. Like, he tried to join the Black Panthers, and they were all like, no, not you.
I mean, they did a really good job of brainwashing her. She changed her name to Tanya for a little while.
Yeah, and
they had her going on TV and telling people that she was fine, and like to give food donations. And there's that iconic photo of her at the bank robbery with that big like semi-automatic weapon. I don't know guns, but
but it's like one of like the most like well-known cases of Stockholm syndrome in popular culture. Eventually, she thankfully got away.
I mean, 2 years in jail, though.
2 years in jail. She did eventually get pardoned, which, it sucks for her because she got...
Bill Clinton.
She got two... It's the one good thing Bill Clinton did. The one time we can say that.
He got a rich white woman out of jail. That's crazy.
Justice for the white ladies.
Yeah.
And then as soon as she was released from jail, she hooked up with John Waters and has been in every one of his movies since Crybaby.
So I'd like to interject there that it makes total sense. John Waters really, really likes going to court cases, like court trials. So he was there for all of Patty Hearst. He was there for the Mansons. He actually tried to get one of the girls out.
Leslie. He tried to get one of, I forget her last name, but yes, one of the Manson girls. Yeah.
And he also was at Watergate. And like he said, he would like see some of the same people there, and it's like, oh, hi Margaret, you're gonna be at like so and so. So he's
just like a social event to do.
He loves, and he also used to teach in a prison. Like he loves convicts. Like he just loves.
I read that he taught in a prison, and he actually made an unseen film with the convicts that he basically made just for them.
I like that very much, and you can tell actually in pretty much every single movie, there's a very anti-cop sentiment.
Right.
They get like eaten in Pink Flamingos again. It's not a spoiler because I feel like it's a gross movie. It's okay to have that one spoiled. The cops get eaten in that one, and then in A Dirty Shame, we'll talk about that cop. And then Pecker, like they're idiots in that movie. Like they're always there, and they're just morons.
But yeah, I mean, like it's another great example of things that he enjoyed to do in his real life influencing his movies. Because you mentioned he liked to go to court cases. I'm immediately remembering basically the third act of Serial Mom, which takes place in a court.
Yeah, actually a lot of them do. Crybaby does as well. There's
right.
there's a bunch. You could make like a John Waters bingo where there's almost always a scene of like a mob mentality thing. There's usually like a court scene. Like there's always like an opening scene and it's like set in a suburb or something like that, There's a lot of sames.
I wonder why that
is. He has
is.
a strong cult theme in a bunch of them too, because Cecil B. Demented, which we haven't talked about
That's
yet.
the only one. That's the one that we haven't talked about yet,
Yeah.
and the one that is partially inspired by Patty Hearst as well.
I would say it's almost exactly her whole thing, and I think that movie is really fun. I like that movie a lot. I would say probably like number 4. Yeah, that's a good one. I like that
Okay,
one.
so your ranking is what's that? Did you mention your number 1?
It was Serial Mom.
Oh, yes, of course.
And I think
the
I
right
said
choice.
polyester was 3. I mean, I think I meant 2. I don't think I had a second one. It's those 2, and then I think Crybaby's like closer to 5th. I got to reevaluate this. Come back to me later on that one.
Sure,
It's
yeah,
a loaded
definitely.
question.
There's a lot of movies, and they're kind of not necessarily ranked in that order. Although I say Serial Mom is a strong number 1.
Great. Well, I'm really inspired to go check out and fill out these blind spots that I haven't seen before.
I like Female Trouble because there's like this whole scene where Divine throws a fit over her cha-cha heels, and whenever I'm trying to like put my shoes on or like look for my shoes, I'm like, oh, cha-cha heels.
I mean, cha-cha heels is a great thing to just like scream angrily. I was like, where are my cha-cha heels?
Where are my cha-cha heels? Yeah.
All right. Well, why don't we take a short little break, and then when we come back, we can dive right into A Dirty Shame. Stay tuned.
Don't feel dirty about it.
We're about body positivity on this podcast.
We are now.
We weren't before.
We have to talk about Odorama.
Oh, yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Normally at this point in time we cover the filmmaker, but we've already done that. So why don't we talk about Odorama right now? You mentioned we're gonna talk a little bit more about polyester and the Odorama scratch and sniff cards.
Yeah, so what I know about John Waters and his inspirations were he loved it's something like Rhoda from The Bad Seed and Captain Hook and Wicked Witch of the West. And William Castle. William Castle specifically, the director, because he was super gimmicky in his like performances. So on House at Haunted Hill, he'd have like a skeleton kind of zipping past, and there was the Tingler where you would sit in a seat, and when the Tingler came, you had to scream your lungs off because that's the only thing that can deter the Tingler, and there would be like little buzzy things.
And Vincent Price would be on screen going like, "The Tingler has escaped. He could be anywhere. He could even be in this theater." And then the seats would start buzzing because they'd put like an electric motor in them.
Is this the guy who John Goodman was based on in Matinee?
Yeah, largely.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole like idea of a filmmaker as a showman.
Yeah.
Where he would have
iconic. We should bring that back.
Absolutely. He would have movie premieres, and he would say like, and there are like registered nurses on hand for when you faint.
Oh.
Yeah.
So he actually would put nausea gas in the vents and make people faint on purpose.
Okay, well
maybe now we'll do that.
That seems slightly criminal.
He literally yells fire to crowded theater.
It's a learning curve, I suppose. Well, there's a lot of things in John Waters movies that are now illegal to put on screen, like the dog poop eating scene in Pink Flamingos. It's now illegal to put on screen now.
Look, I'm jumping ahead perhaps a little bit, but part of the reason why today's film, A Dirty Shame, was not remotely successful for him is because this was somewhat of a return to form for him, trying to make a movie that was closer to his earlier trash masterpieces, trying to get away from the, quote, mainstream films that he was making at the time. He never made a mainstream film in his life, but Serial Mom, Hairspray, they're as close as he got. And as a result, this film was rated NC-17, and as a result, most movie theaters wouldn't even show it or advertise it.
So in his actual contract, he was supposed to keep the movie rated R, and he actually came out with his own version of it called Neuter Vision, and we'll talk about a neuter in a minute, but it's a heavily censored version of it.
So it's 5 minutes long.
There's a lot to cut out, but it was apparently when he was talking to the censors and stuff, he was asking what they needed to cut out, and they said, we stopped taking notes. But his, so getting back to the William Castle thing, when Polyester came out, which was the first above ground movie that he made, he had these little scratch and sniff cards called Odorama, and on the screen there would be a prompt for you to scratch and sniff, and it's basically just him getting people to smell a fart, which I think is hilarious.
was every smell on the card fart, or was it? Did he like add some other stuff too? Was it just different variations of fart?
They had to. One of the censors, right, is they had to take glue off of there because they didn't want to encourage people to
sniff glue and get high or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there was different things and different prompts and stuff like that, but one of them is a fart, and I think that's really funny. And again,
because people had to pay admission to the theater to go and do this. You're paying someone to smell their farts.
I can't remember which production company he was with, but they, I guess, had forgot to renew the patent for it. So fast forward a couple years when the Rugrats tried to pull this thing using the exact same name, Odorama, for their movie.
John Waters took the Rugrats to court?
He didn't get any... No.
Oh, the Rugrats railroaded him?
Well, because the studio he was with that made Polyester, they didn't renew the patent for the Odorama, so they were legally allowed to use it.
Yet another thing Chucky Finster is guilty of.
Taken down by big Reptar.
But no, I love William Castle. He's a fascinating figure. John Waters even got the opportunity to play William Castle for the Showtime miniseries Feud, Betty and Joan. He appears in a few episodes.
Yes, I have seen that. I watched that show. I found it a little bit boring, and I'm actually pretty... a big Joan Crawford and Betty Davis fan too, so...
I like some of Ryan Murphy's stuff, but I do wish he maybe had a little more of a John Waters sensibility. I wish his stuff was trashier.
I wish he would just direct and not write.
Yes, that helps too, yes. John Waters has popped up in numerous cameos over the years in various stuff. He has a small role in Seed of Chucky as a tabloid photographer who gets his face melted off with acid.
Awesome.
He has a somewhat inexplicable cameo in Alvin and the Chipmunks Chipwrecked, in which he shares a seat on an airplane with Alvin, and then Alvin informs him that he has watched Pink Flamingos, which just opens up an entire can of worms.
Oh, that's going to inspire some kid to check out Pink Flamingos.
Dude, who was that joke for?
It's not for the parents, because as we all know, the only people who can have children are a man and a woman.
Oh, yes, as designated by God.
As designated by God.
Yes. I don't know. I imagine the director of that movie was just a freak and was I'm going to put John Waters in this.
I don't think gay people are watching Alvin and the Chipmunks, but
you never know.
I've always been wrong in life, so
that's a category like bear and otter, like chipmunk, right?
Oh, I hope not.
That's called. Well, it's a. Let me just state here. It's an adult. It's an adult person.
Yeah, and another adult person, a consenting adult person.
It's a little person who is incredibly hairy. That's what it is. That's what chipmunk is.
All right, get on it, Urban Dictionary.
All right, there we go. I mean, speaking of Urban Dictionary, this movie was written by Urban Dictionary.
Pretty much,
at the very least, inspired the beginning of Urban Dictionary. Yeah. But it is funny. This movie is much older than I thought it was. 2004 came out so long ago, and it's crazy that he hasn't made anything since, even though
he just likes writing books.
He writes books. He is a multimedia artist. He does various other things. He also collects books. I read he has over 8,000 books in his collection.
Not surprising.
Yeah.
He collects art. He donated a ton of art that he collected, and also art to himself to a museum. They named a wing after him, but he then insisted that they also name a all gender neutral bathroom after him.
Yep.
Which they did. So you can go.
He tried to buy Jackie Kennedy's trash can at a Sotheby's auction.
Was it like the trash can that she threw the pink hat out in? Like, is there anything particularly interesting about this trash can?
No, he's the master of trash. Like, he's
That
the
is
Pope of
true.
trash. He just wanted
That
her
is
garbage
true,
can,
yes.
and I think that's iconic. I would also want Jackie Kennedy's, but he didn't get it. He asked the Sotheby's people, like, do you have her garbage can? And they looked around and they said, do you think this woman throws anything out?
Jackie Onassis's Kennedy's trash can is something that would show up in the store owned by the character of John in The Simpsons. Yes. Anyway, we should move on to the actual movie, A Dirty Shame.
Oh yeah, did we watch a movie?
We did.
did.
We watched.
It's the only bit of research I did.
The only thing Jameson has to add is that he
okay.
watched the movie.
I watched the movie.
And he has some thoughts on it.
I do.
So yeah, we'll dive right into this. This is, you could charitably say, a bit of a plot light movie, but we can certainly cover like the structure of it.
We can fill in the blanks.
It's just a lot of cringy Tracey Ullman moments.
I have a bit of a read on this movie that came to me as it was nearing its conclusion, and I think you said off mic before we started, John Waters hasn't really spoken about this movie that much. I think it's a bit of like a sore
I don't think
topic
so.
for him.
The interview I did see him talk about it, he didn't seem to have. It was more of vitriol towards like the censors.
Of course, yeah.
So I
Which
think
he must always have had like an axe to grind
yeah,
with.
it actually doesn't have that as bad of a like ranking on IMDb than I thought, or like Rotten Tomatoes. It's like a 55, which is still higher than I expected. I think this movie is like funny. I'm gonna say this right now. I liked it.
I had a great time.
Yeah.
I think it was made at the wrong time, but I
Sure.
think that it was supposed to be made at that time, and I'm glad that it flopped.
Yeah, but because if it didn't, we wouldn't have anything to talk about
I would
today.
love for this to become more of a because Pecker's boring. We can just forget about that one. Like,
Look, forget about Pecker. If you come away from this podcast with one thing, it's just
Yeah.
all like throw Pecker right in the trash.
we know which movie is my least favorite John Waters movie.
So this was my read on a Dirty Shame, and I think it's a bit of a left field take, but I wanted to put it out here first before we get into it and see what sort of reaction I get. I think this is John Waters' take on a zombie film.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just with the casual enveloping of the nice suburban neighborhood with sort of like the not undead but just like the infected, because like certainly like there's an infection that's spreading throughout this neighborhood.
Sex addiction.
I think a more accurate term would be like it's almost a body snatcher film where there would be like some charismatic cultish leader type who's infecting the town, as you're saying, kind of steering it away towards his.
Yeah, zombie is more of a blanket term. Yeah, it's like an infected movie.
And like we said, like John Waters has an obsession with cults because Cecil B. Demented came out like right before that. That was the movie that came out right before A Dirty Shame because Cecil B. Demented came out in 2000 and then Dirty Shame 2004. It's a pretty short gap.
Because my other opinion on this movie is that like if you take like the basis of what happens in the plot of this movie, it does play out like a conservative's nightmare.
I kind of felt like this movie was a bit of a Frankenstein of a bunch of other John Waters movies. That's what my read was. Like it felt like
it did kind of feel like a bit of a junk drawer movie of all like here's everything I haven't put in a movie yet.
Well, none of the there was not a single part of it that I couldn't like maybe identify from like a different movie that he's already made. Like the whole cult thing already done in Cecil B. Demented. Pecker did a lot of like had some of the ideas of a lot of the sex addict stuff already, and like public outrage about Pecker's funny because there's this whole thing about the lesbian stripper bar where there's public outrage about pubic hair, and that also becomes a theme in A Dirty Shame as well. Is like there is a quote in there about pubic hair being in the air, and I think that's
I'm
really
sure
funny.
they mention pubic hair more than
Well,
once. Yes,
Mink Stoll says something about just it's not safe. People are shaving their crotches as we speak. There's pubic hair in the air, and I think that's a direct throwback to Pecker.
Yeah.
I know we haven't even talked about the plot yet, but just a brief sidebar on Mink Stoll. I love Mink Stoll. Mink Stoll has appeared in a movie
legacy.
we've talked about before. She appeared in All About Evil, which does very much feel like someone tried to recapture the magic of a John Waters film, right down to the inclusion of Mink Stoll. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mink Stoll always played this role, right? She's always the pearl-clutching next-door neighbor. No, sometimes she's a freak as well, too?
Oh my goodness, no.
Okay, because I only remember her as like Penny's mom from Hairspray.
So I was definitely going to touch on that when we start explaining the actual plot. But yeah, so she's definitely a pearl clutcher in this one. It's just because she's older now. Like
Sure.
I think like she's just plays a good like outraged older.
I'm
like,
also thinking of
white
her
lady.
great role in Serial Mom, where she
Yeah.
she plays kind of the same role as
Pussy
this.
Willows.
Pussy Willows. That's what she said. Pussy Willows. Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, Mink Stole. The first movie she was in was Pink Flamingos, and she plays Connie Marbles. So there's the couple Connie and Raymond Marbles, and they're the antagonists to Divine's family, and they're trying to be like the filthiest people alive, and they kidnap women, inseminate them, and sell their babies to lesbians.
Ah.
Mm-hmm.
I love the little like cherry on top of like and lesbians back then, because of course in like the 70s just saying the word lesbian was shocking and outrageous.
1972. She has my favorite quote in pretty much any movie or anything at all in Pink Flamingos, and that's, "There's two kinds of people in this world, my kind of people and assholes." And I live by that.
That's great words to live by. All right.
I love how we've talked about the plot of every single movie except for this one.
Except for this one. Well, we have the second half of the podcast is generally longer than the other one, so we can start diving into it.
No, this is great. I love this. This is what I came here for.
So circling back to a couple of points that you guys were making throughout all of that. One thing that I took away from this, and like again, like sort of the novice of John Waters, we got to factor that he's been a filmmaker for decades now, and he was groundbreaking in what he was doing in really highlighting the sort of the I don't want to call them like the weirdos, but the people that were like against like the conventional society.
Oh no,
at
they're
the time.
weirdos. I think we can.
Fine. They're
I think
weirdos.
you can pretty much say that. Yeah.
All right, so absolute pioneer in that direction. You know, he has an entire career of successes to look back on. Now we got to factor in that he's a little bit older, and in that time, society has maybe gone like a little bit more freewheeling and everything. And this movie strikes me as someone who decided to fire up Urban Dictionary, learn a bunch of new sexual terms.
Didn't exist back then.
Actually,
2004.
They did not exist.
That's not far off from what actually happened.
Yeah. And then he's like, okay, this is all like completely new and foreign to me. Let's see if I can recapture some of my old magic so I can weigh in on this. And what you were talking about for this film, where we're saying like, oh, it's like his take on a zombie film, it's his take on like a body invasion. When he doesn't have enough plot to weave that through, there are just scenes where he's describing the title of the sex act and what it entails.
It's very encyclopedic.
Yes. So he'll say like, oh, this is what the stranger is. This is what the shocker is. This is what the Cleveland steamer is.
There is about maybe
Tokyo Sandblaster or whatever.
Charitably 20% of this movie that could considerably be called a documentary.
I think, though, I would like to point out, though, that this was 2004 and people weren't chronically online at that point, and pornography was still fairly taboo. Like, I would say the puritanical culture really only stopped maybe like 5 years ago when people stopped caring about stuff like being OnlyFans, whatever. And I think that,
but it's coming back with a vengeance.
We gave it a 5-year try, and now we're getting dragged kicking and screaming back to the 50s.
I think what we have to keep in mind watching it through like a today lens is that it's not really that shocking. It's just kind of cringy now, a lot of it. But back then, this would be most people's first time hearing about any of this nonsense. Like period. This is like this was a movie that was made. Actually, he even said that this was a commercially made movie on purpose, but with his little like flair at the end, I guess, because this was coming out during those like sexy, raunchy comedy era, like the Van Wilders and the American Pie. So it kind of was during that like almost trash
American Pie-esque
movies.
It does feel like, you know, like there are things that like pop up in like Harold and Kumar that would fit right in this movie.
Certainly a lot of like the practical effects with like the flowers morphing into penises and shit like that.
Sure, yeah. But yeah, I mean, just to take an example, and then I promise, dear listener, we will go through the plot of this movie eventually. But just to take an example, you were saying of people weren't overly familiar with the terms. You know, like we meet.
It would have been very shocking at the time.
We meet the family of bears.
Yeah.
And I was very confused about those characters when they first showed up because they're introduced without any context, and they're just at first
moving boxes and growling at people.
At first, I thought that they were, coming on to Tracey Ullman, and I'm all like, that seems like odd behavior for big, hairy gay men. And then I realized, no, that's just like their thing. They do that to everyone. And then, yes, eventually, as the movie went on, I did realize, I guess in 2004, not everyone knew what a bear was.
Well, and even like the awareness of anything in gay culture at all would have been fairly censored and stuff. I think that's actually probably why their censors were so high, because if you actually watch the movie, there's really only one scene where you see any nudity, and it's fairly tame. Like all of the sex
it's
acts
just a
are
standard full
off
frontal
screen,
shot,
or people are fully clothed. Like there's, I think, just one scene with a naked lady. Like that movie should have been rated R. They made it NC-17 because there's gay shit in it. Absolutely, because there's a whole thing about like the lady making Suzanne Hoffman, who plays the mother of Tracey Ullman.
Big Ethel.
Big Ethel. Apparently, she tried to quit. She read the script, cried, didn't want to be in it anymore because of the subject matter, and they all had to persuade her to keep. She
was primarily a stage actress, and when she got hired in this movie, she had never heard of John Waters before. Read the script on the bus ride over there, and by the end, basically inhabited the role of Big Ethel and started quivering and saying, I can't do this. This is too shocking.
That makes me sad.
But that largely is why I think Waters must have convinced her to stay, because it's all like, that's the energy I want. I want someone bringing like a realism to this character of being like shocked and appalled.
That poor lady.
And that character it only exists to react to the thing. She doesn't really have to do anything freaky herself until the tail end.
And considering how hard it flopped, in the box office, I would say for her that probably was not worth the potential career suicide, but I mean, at that age.
Fine. If anyone even bothered to see it, yes.
Yeah.
All right, so A Dirty Shame introduces us to the Stickles family.
The Stickles family, yeah, with the incredibly pent-up and sexually repressed Tracey Ullman as, what's her name?
Sylvia Sickles.
Sylvia Sickles, Tracey Ullman.
Of course, John Waters loves his alliterative names.
And like a lot of John Waters movies, it opens on a house in a suburb.
Yep.
I love that.
We meet her husband, Vaughn Stickles, played by Chris Isaak.
Chris Isaak, yeah, who I've kind of wanted to talk about on the show for a while. I like Chris Isaak, and it was a bit of a pushover, I want to say. A little old-fashioned, and he wants to get with his sex-hating wife, who will not give him the time of day.
I mean, he's traditional, but he wants to have like a quickie in the morning before breakfast.
Yeah, and when he's denied that, he just goes jerking off in the washroom.
I also like that what she's cooking for breakfast is called scrapple, which is
that was literally the first note that I wrote down.
Oh, sick. Yes. Okay, yeah, just pork loaf.
Yeah, it's like a Spam variant, I imagine. It's like all the parts of the meat that they were left over.
I think scrapple's actually something. It's just like table scraps from other breakfasts, and just like made into a bread loaf or whatever.
Hence the name. Chloe, in your notes and trivia, did you happen to spy who originally was supposed to play the role of Vaughn?
Oh, I feel like I did, but because all white guys look the same to me, I immediately forgot.
Well, it's a very different white guy from Chris Isaak. Originally, John Waters wanted Paul Giamatti to play this
Paul
role.
Giamatti, yes. Okay.
And he did it, but then he went and filmed another movie called Sideways, which was probably the correct...
The better move,
the correct career move for him. But this was right on the cusp of Paul Giamatti, like, becoming a household name. So being in this wouldn't have done him any favors. But I will say I would have preferred him to Chris Isaak, who largely is just playing the prude.
I don't know. He's just so doofy that I feel like he fits like the kind of traditional like kind of idiot husband. I don't know, because Paul Giamatti, he's so like. He's just such a good actor.
Yeah, exactly.
He's so good.
He would have classed this up way too much.
I don't think he could have clowned as hard.
No, he probably would have played it a little bit more lovelorn too, like a little bit more pathetic.
He would have laid on the pathetic way too much. Be like, oh, come on, Sylvia. Oh, jeez, I can't imagine.
By the way, like she's a very angry prude. Like, she was just furious.
She hates sex. She hates like anyone who flaunts sexuality.
She just seems kind of like borderline angry at the world. Like she just seems like someone who is so repressed she kind of loses her temper at every little thing.
Yep.
So yes, we see Sylvia preparing her breakfast scrapple, and she is bringing it up to the second
to the prison where she's keeping her wayward daughter.
As she is walking up the stairs, someone from off screen throws a folding chair at her.
Yeah,
head.
what's up with that?
Well, I thought that was random at first, but as the movie went on, I realized that's sort of like a seeding of the theme of. If you get like an accidental concussion,
like
you become a sex maniac. So I feel like that's someone in the sex cult just off screen trying to get the plot going a little faster than it is.
Even though the plot gets going pretty fucking quickly.
I didn't notice that either times I watched this.
One thing I did notice was the daughter, Selma Blair.
Well, how on earth could you not notice her?
Jesus Christ.
That's so funny because here in my notes it says, I quote, Selma Blair, huge knockers, awooga honk honk.
Ah, yes, I see.
And I'm glad she's the one that made that
really
observation.
It was really important that you cleared your throat before saying that, so we didn't miss a single word of that.
I also have a fun fact for that. Apparently, Ursula Utters, or Caprice, Caprice is her dead name, let's just say.
Yes.
Ursula Utters' breasts cost $5,000 per day because they could not reuse them after shooting. The material would melt under the lights, the same designer, Tony Gardner, who designed her like gigantic knockers, did Gwyneth Paltrow's fat suit in Shallow Hal, and also worked on the Chucky movie that came out like a couple years after that.
Oh wow!
Oh, that's probably the connection that got Waters.
But could you imagine $5,000 a day for like the fake bazongas? Like I know when they make them now for drag queens, it's like a breastplate that you like put on. But that would have been, because they're so comically
They are, if this is a drag queen you're familiar with, they are very much Jimbo-sized breasts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the interesting thing about Selma Blair is, like, she's third billed in this. She's playing Tracey Ullman's daughter.
I loved her in this.
She's great. She really only does have a handful of scenes, and I do wonder if that has to do with she couldn't wear those breasts for very long.
No, because, after a day, like a 15-hour day of filming, they would have been, like, melting and stuff, so they would have to make like new ones every single time.
Or they hook up like the whatever kind of hose piping system they do for guys in rubber suits so that she can not overheat under those things.
Sure.
So this budget was like $15 million, and I wonder
the
how much of that went to her boobs. Yeah.
Jeez. They had to relocate other movies from like when's lunch today? We had to skip craft services because we needed to funnel more boob money.
You guys get like world's runniest lasagna for catering today.
So she is a local stripping legend under the stage name of
an exhibitionist is what she says.
Yeah, she's a dancer at a biker bar, not necessarily a strip club. But
she's promoting the art of dance.
That's right. And her mom won't have her, so she's got her in an ankle bracelet, and she locks her by padlock every day.
Because she's gotten in trouble with the government. The government says that her breasts
got arrested for exhibitionist and for being a drunk. And she says,
I was not drunk. I was on pills. Something is the matter with your vagina.
Her mom and dad keep her locked in a tower.
Yeah. Her mom leaves by saying, there's something wrong with your vagina.
There's something wrong with your vagina.
I know this is a later scene, but I like the runner of when she's alone in her room, she's watching like The Red Shoes, which is like a classic piece of cinema. But then when she hears someone coming up the stairs, she turns it off. She's all like, I'm dancing!
I'm supposed to be the party girl.
I'm the party girl!
I want to circle back to that when we get to that point later in the movie, because I think one thing I just want to get out the door right here is that I do like this movie, so a lot of my points are going to be a lot of nitpicky stuff on what I think would be a more satisfying story for this, because otherwise it's just like a super, super broad comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not supposed to be good. It wasn't written with the intention.
But I want to help you, John Waters.
You can offer John Waters your notes on a movie that's
and he'll tell me to go fuck myself, and he's totally justified in doing that.
That's 20 years old at this point, but yes, just know that was never the point of this.
Yeah.
So we meet one of my favorite characters, Fat Fuck Frank.
The obsessed superfan of Ursula Utters.
He's a ride or die. He's a
ride or die. I feel like I share. I'm a bit of a Fat Fuck Frank myself, so I relate a little bit to this character here. But he's lovelorn and he wants Ursula. He wants them to release the Utters.
Yeah.
But they won't do it, and Sylvia shoos him off his property. We meet their conservative but
Open-minded?
open-minded Washingtonian neighbors,
Yeah.
who are weird characters that
Yeah.
I thought that was building to something, and then eventually they just get on a bus and leave town.
I think they're just supposed to be like the straight men, like kind of like thinking, oh my god, like everybody in this neighborhood is so insanely like backdated. I think that's like they're kind of there to show the contrast of like.
But they're way more tolerant of everything that's going on, all the madness that's going on around them.
They're from Washington. That's the joke.
Is that like a Baltimore, Washington thing? Like they got some
people on the West Coast are more liberal. Like we're, like Portland, Washington.
They keep saying the word diversity, which I think is funny.
Which is hilarious because there's 2 black people in this movie, and they're both in the background. And one of them's actually a Dreamlander. It's Jean Hill, and she's just Lady on Fire.
Who plays the lady that comes out and her husband is hitting on Sylvia, and she's all like, "No, you don't."
No, you don't.
That's like one of the only prominent speaking roles for a black person. But anyway, that's fine. That wasn't the point. But
she was in Pink Flamingos.
So Sylvia is driving to work. Everyone in the family seemingly works at the same convenience store type situation, which sells gas and donuts and that type of situation. As she's driving to work, her car runs out of gas in the middle of the freeway.
Yeah. And she's everyone's just giving her hell for blocking traffic. Everyone in town seems to hate this lady.
Me too.
Yeah.
She was the worst part. I'm so sorry. I'm going to interject just to say that Tracey Ullman was the worst part of this movie for me.
Wow.
I like her. I'm a big fan. Thank you, Tracey Ullman, for The Simpsons.
Of course. Yeah.
But like, oh my God, I don't know. She just played this character like a drunk. And it was hard for me to watch it. Like, I just wish she had died.
I mean, Tracey Ullman has never been what you would call a subtle actor.
No, I mean, there's just like, I think she was miscast.
I think so too. I think the intention was we need to get a comedian to play like this very broad character and just go with it.
It just wasn't funny.
Yeah, I think the issue that a lot of people forget for comedic primary actors is that if you have to get them to do something like, say, okay, now give me your O face or something, they're going to go super rubber face. They're going to go ridiculous for it. Like steam may as well be shooting out of her ears.
The one area where I would say she did a good job was like the initial moment she has with Johnny Knoxville. That orgasm face made me laugh. But the rest of the movie, the way she plays her character is so like drunk.
Yeah,
well, she doesn't
like
because like a lot of comedic actors don't know how to do sexy. They know how to do funny sexy.
Yeah,
but,
and I understand like because she's not sexy and that's the point. Like she's because nobody wants her shit either. Like that's the other funny thing to me. But like I just think that there was a way she could have played this where it just didn't come across like your drunk aunt at a party who might be on something else.
What I would say the main issue with the performance, which I feel like I'm a little softer on than you two are, is that there's not really that much of a distinction from the way she plays prude Sylvia to the way she plays sexually liberated Sylvia. There needed to be like a real a real difference between those two, and unfortunately she does sort of play it roughly the same way both times. Perfectly cast for this movie, I will say, is Johnny Knoxville as Ray Ray. And I mean, just like it's a shame for so many, a dirty shame, one might say, that Waters wasn't able to continue making movies after this and cast Knoxville in them, because truly
he seems like a perfect fit.
If there's like a modern day example of someone who fits within the John Waters oeuvre, it's like the mastermind behind Jackass.
I could be wrong, but I think that was Johnny Knoxville's like first actual movie that he starred in.
Oh, I think that was the second Men in Black movie.
Oh, was it?
It's definitely one of the earlier ones.
He was like a leading actor in this one, though.
Yeah. So he plays Ray Ray, who is this
sexual Jesus.
So he's essentially the sexual Jesus. He's introduced in his tow truck as he's getting roadhead, and
which takes a very long time to establish.
By a cop,
yeah. But then, like as he's driving along, he nearly runs over a badly CGI'd squirrel and swerves to miss it, and in the process knocks Tracey Ullman unconscious, and that's what gives her a concussion. And that's where he says, like you have the gift now. You are now like a nymphomaniac, and
they celebrate it by him going down on her right there.
Right in front of the traffic. Everybody.
Multiple people go down on Tracey Ullman in this movie. What I almost never see is anyone removing her pants.
Yeah.
She just has like the most easily accessible vagina of anyone. Well, there we go. Problem solved. There we go.
We also don't see any of this happening. Like we just see her face.
Yes.
Yeah. Which
but
is
it's an NC-17.
Yeah.
Because
and then she does that thing that Dan Aykroyd did in Ghostbusters where he gets he crosses his eyes.
Yeah.
Johnny Knoxville also does mouth-to-mouth on the squirrel, which then also becomes a little squirrel nymphomaniac. Look, the first time I saw this fucking squirrel, I'm all like, this is the most absurd CGI creation I've
Well,
ever seen.
it's-
As it went on, I really liked it.
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
He has like a dumb smile on his face the entire time.
I love the stupid special effects of like a fire being rotoscoped
Yeah.
over Tracey Ullman's
Yeah.
crotch. Johnny Knoxville having laser vision at
Well,
one point.
There's also like a through line where he refers to it as her burning bush, and then there's like some more things that kind of
'Cause
go
that's so-
in almost a
That's
Catholic.
biblical.
He's like, yeah, well, because he's like sex Jesus. He's a sexual saint, is what they call him. And then there's some other things that I would also like to talk about in a little bit. But like, yeah, oh my gosh, I learned that was the first John Waters movie that used any kind of animation.
You don't say.
Well, yeah.
It
hates
wasn't
it.
his strong suit,
Well,
shall we say. Yeah.
He's not the one doing it.
Yeah.
But he hates
He
it.
might have.
I thought the squirrels were funny.
So now Tracey Ullman is essentially in his thrall. She's a roving sex addict, and Johnny Knoxville has made it clear that, today, Baltimore, tomorrow, the world, he wants to spread this way of thinking.
And he gives her his business card. He says, "Come and find me later. You'll want to find me later." Now is the introduction of what I'm going to say is, I think the most
strongest performances.
Well, true, but what I'm going to say is the most befuddling element of this movie to me that I really couldn't make heads or tails of. At around this moment, we see the word whore superimposed on screen.
The chapter?
And it is spaced out.
Yeah.
They are almost chapter titles.
Mm-hmm.
At one point in time, I wrote down as all like, is this what he's attempting to do? Is he attempting to do like a Frasier type thing where it's like he's introducing chapter titles, but it's not like the classic like black screen, white letters type thing. They are superimposed over top of the scenes, and they are flashing, and they are purposefully spelled out. They have dashes in between all of the things.
I think the joke was supposed to be subliminal messaging.
If that's the joke, I didn't
because they're trying to get more people to be like sex addicts in the cult and stuff. That was my interpretation.
I thought that was like sort of the primary drive of the character in the moment whenever they flashed on screen.
It could be like both.
Because if it's a subliminal message thing, sometimes the flashing messages...
It's not very subliminal, first of all.
And sometimes the flashing messages are more of a neuter message as well too. They're like wash your hands, eat your vegetables.
Yeah.
That's not what it says, but like that type of messaging.
I think it's supposed to be both, but I also just think the joke isn't funny.
Yeah.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think that was like a thing that he was trying, but it was confusing in its execution. The thing is he just does it so often.
I think if you watch more of his movies,
that type of stuff kind of
makes more
pops up.
sense, yeah.
Sure. All right.
Yeah.
But that didn't make any sense to me. But anyway, she eventually finds her way to work.
Yeah, she's dealing with her mom, Big Ethel, who runs the store, and she's talking to Mink Stole about just like how the whole town is going to hell.
Yeah.
And I'm no fucking prude, but I kind of see where they're coming from when they're talking about how their neighbors are leaving condoms in their backyard. They find dildos in their mailboxes. There are people openly having sex in public. And I'm like, yeah, I can kind of see where you're coming from with this being a problem.
First of all, they found a dildo in the wishing well.
Okay,
on
whatever.
the front lawn.
All right, whatever.
I would like to interject and tell you that when I was on my way to work a few weeks ago, I absolutely found like the entire like rubber torso sex toy of a lady on just like literally in the suburbs. So no, I do actually think those things happen.
Someone's missing that, I bet.
Yeah.
Where's Laura?
I've seen all kinds of stuff like that. But I would just want to say when Mink Stole shows up and one of the first things that she does is call it filthy, I lost my shit. I was like, yeah, Connie Marbles.
I want to go off of what you just said, Jameson, about how you don't consider yourself a prude, but you do think that there are certain things that.
Well, I'm not advocating for like chastity or anything in this movie, but like maybe they could like tone it down a little.
I think
that's the point of the movie, though.
Yeah.
Again, Waters is really smart in what he includes, but he's also really smart in what he omits from this movie.
Which is gray area.
Yes, there's a lot of gray area because, like, basically this is a movie about a town that descends into, like, pure kinkdom, and every single member of the town ends in, like, this, like, massive orgy engaging all, like, their wildest sexual fantasies. What he's really smart to not even engage with are the, I'll just call them the problematic kinks. You know, the ones involving sexual assault, the ones involving children. There are children in this movie, but they are on the outskirts and they are largely not involved in any of the action of this movie, because if they were, that would be raising too many uncomfortable questions.
Well, it's actually really interesting that you mentioned that, because there is a point that Johnny Knoxville makes when he's, you know, talking about all of this different sex addicts in a later scene, where it's really very, very emphasized about like consent. And that's where I wrote in my notes, is this movie actually woke?
That's why I didn't like it. It's too woke.
Yeah, and I think my ending thesis was yes.
But they're welcoming for like all this hypersexuality, so long as it's safe, consensual, and you don't harm others.
As you grow to embrace your concussion, you'll learn to accept anything sexual as long as it's safe, consensual, and doesn't harm others.
Yeah, and you just have to divorce yourself from, I guess, quote unquote, the reality of the situation, where if this were to happen, it would become a big problem like very quickly, because we live in reality, and unfortunately reality is horrible. But this is as far away from reality as you can get, so we don't need to think about that type of stuff. These characters are allowed to be horny kinksters, and we don't need to worry about the darker side creeping into it.
There's no need for it.
Yeah,
either.
it's a two sides thing, where there's the horned up kinky group and the super prudish, tightly wound conservative type, the neuters, as they're called in this movie. And there's no real, you know, if there's like these two warring factions, there's not that third one where it's like, well, let's have the common ground.
No, well, that's like what the Washington couple are supposed to be.
Is it?
Yeah, that's what their whole character thing is.
They
Everybody
exemplify
is crazy.
like the common ground, and by the end of the movie, they realize
they're also kinked up.
There is no common ground. We actually have to leave. We're actually more prudish than I
crazy.
think we thought we were. Yes, but for the neuters to be the antagonists of the movie, they need to be against things that on the surface are perfectly harmless.
And I would like to go back to Mink Stoll, because I think she...
Please, always. Anytime you want, we can go back to Mink Stoll.
She carried the whole movie for me. Every single one of her lines were like so funny. Her and the neuters made me laugh harder than anything else in this movie. But like when she's standing there and she's talking to the other ladies, and there's like the other woman who comes up and she's talking about how her husband's like been taking Viagra and wants it all the time, and she calls herself Viagravated.
That was cute.
Only you can prevent fornication. There's also another side character having his own little thing, and this is like a
Dingy Dave.
I think this is a throwback to Pink Flamingos, because he just starts like finger blasting some ground beef, and there's like a whole bit in Pink Flamingos where it involves Divine shoving meat in between your legs and walking around.
Dingy Dave, he loves to be gross, he loves to be dirty, he drinks like vase water at one point in time.
He's licking the floor, he's licking tires.
He's played by a great character actor I love, James Ransone, who you may remember from the Empire State episode. Jameson, he was the guy who inexplicably had the same character name of Dwayne Johnson's character in that movie.
I'll take your word for it.
It was like years ago, but who's to say? But he plays Dingy Dave, and he's an employee of Big Ethel's Stop and Go or whatever.
Yeah. So Tracey Ullman meets up with her husband again, and they have sex in the truck. And then they go to the old folks' home to meet up with his mom.
I just want to point out, she says, do you want to sneak away for some funch?
Yeah.
Funch.
Fucking at lunch. And she
fucking after lunch!
She said, you want to go discover the oyster? You want to go yodeling in the canyon?
Every single one of these lines made me want to turn the movie off. I was like, can I just... I sped it up, and I'm like, gotta get through that on the second round.
So, like, the husband's thinking that this
Sneezing in the cabbage, that's one that I wrote down.
I do think one of the best lines in this entire movie comes from a neuter in the very beginning, talking to Mink Stoll, who comes up and says, I'm not a prude, I'm married to an Italian.
Yes.
That was one of my... That took me all the way the fuck out.
Which I read in a piece of trivia. That's something that one of the censors said to John Waters.
Yeah.
But yes, that's one of my favorite lines. I also love someone else that says, lesbians have taken over the softball fields. Again, this is all cringy stuff. It's all like cringy dad humor.
Lesbians are good for the community.
So yes, Tracey Ullman and her husband sneak away.
Yeah, the husband's already thinking, oh, this is great. We're having sex again. This is great.
I got to have my favorite missionary sex, and then I can take a nap.
And then a hearty handshake, and we're off to bed.
Handshake.
But then they go to visit his mom at the old folks home. They're doing the hokey pokey.
They're doing the hokey pokey. There's only one way to say it. They're doing the hokey pokey.
They are doing the
literally doing the hokey pokey. And Tracey Ullman's getting really into it, and she's making eyes at all the orderlies, and we see them starting to hump furniture, and one guy's totally standing in the nude in her mind, and then it ends with her shoving a bottle up her vagina.
Oh no,
Which
she didn't shove a bottle. She squatted down and lifted a water bottle up by the coochie. And my only notes for that scene was horny, hokey pokey. Oh my god, I don't want to talk about this.
Which I'm pretty sure I remember from back in the day was a prominent trailer moment. The whole Tracey Ullman lifting the bottle up, that was all that was their big you gotta come see this in theaters on opening day, folks.
That did feel very John Waters. Again, I keep talking about, it's hard not to talk about Pink Flamingos, but he's always had weird little vignettes like that where there's
but this movie is entirely vignettes though. There's not really a plot to it.
That's all of them though.
Yeah.
I think Crybaby is the only one that I can think of. Maybe Hairspray as well.
Hairspray has a plot, definitely.
Yeah, Serial Mom has a plot too. Yes. They're all very weak though. It's all about the lines and like the silly characters happening around the plot that I think makes the movies good.
So at this point in time, Sylvia has escaped from her family and she's going out into the evening.
She's still in clothes and makeup and...
Which, to be fair, who leaves their clothes on a hanger outside overnight? You're asking those to get stolen by Tracey Ullman. Her
outfit was very Divine inspired, you could tell. She also grabs a pair of cha-cha heels. I absolutely made a note of that. And her animal print. She also does like a little fake mole exactly where Divine would have. So I really do think that was like supposed to be a bit of an homage.
Oh. I did read in the trivia that John Waters said if Divine was still alive, he would have played Big Ethel.
Absolutely.
Oh, that would have,
That was largely written for him with him in mind. But yes.
Which is funny to see like a cisgender woman doing it. Like it's a little funny with that in mind, I think.
So she's making her way to Johnny in Knoxville, and she hops on the bus, clears it all out with her overt sexuality, has sex with the bus driver, climbs into a cab, tries to grope the driver, but he's not into it.
No, because he's a neuter.
He's a neuter.
He's a neuter. He's a filthy neuter.
That's the only reason why someone wouldn't want to be ravaged by Tracey Ullman.
Oh. That's right. That's the only reason why you wouldn't want a strange woman just grabbing your crotch while you're trying to do at work.
Yeah.
And yes, concurrent with Tracey Ullman running around trying to find
acting
Ray Ray's
like an actual
garage.
bonobo.
What?
She's acting like a bonobo.
She is. She's trying to get a hold on those mangoes and bananas. Going parallel with Tracey Ullman running around trying to find Ray's, Big Ethel going door to door. Big Ethel and Mink Stoll handing out their literature, trying to recruit more neuters to
the Chastity Army or whatever, which is always going to be a fucking tough sell, but
but something that unfortunately we're still seeing today in modern culture, very much so. But yeah, she does eventually make it to Ray's garage, where she meets a lot of characters we've previously been introduced to in previous scenes.
But now we realize that, they all have their own kinks. And Johnny Knoxville explains that these were all brought about by head trauma.
But accidental head trauma. If it's on purpose, it won't turn you into a nymphomaniac. It has to happen by surprise.
Now, what I think is an unintentional thing that... that John Waters stumbled into here is that the movie wants to embrace these kinks that these people have. They should embrace their sexuality like this. But he's also laying it out that this only comes about through a head injury.
Yeah.
So,
which is funny because the movie Crash had already come out at this point.
Now, but you're not implying that these are normal behaviors. Then this is all done against their better judgment.
That is an interesting point, Jameson.
Well, it's an addiction, right? And that's actually also a really common theme in John Waters' movies. Pretty much every single movie has some sort of character with an addiction. In Pecker, it was the little girl with the sugar addiction. Completely unnecessary character. Not talking about Pecker anymore.
Look, you're telling me, you keep saying that, and you keep circling back to Pecker, and every time you reveal a new piece of information about Pecker, it kind of makes me want to watch Pecker.
Guys, focus.
You should. I watched them back to back because I didn't know that there was another.
Pecker might be one of the only films he has that you can stream on Prime or something.
I couldn't find it. I just watched it off of Archive.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Internet Archive. This episode is sponsored by Internet
Thank you,
Archive.
Internet Archive.
Yeah. It's got Christina Ricci in in it. I mean,
Hey!
she's kind of funny.
I'm sold. What the hell was I going to say? Yes, so yeah, we meet like the chief of police whose kink is dressing up like a big baby, and he likes to be swaddled. We meet there's like a pair of
to interrupt, we actually see the cop buying diapers in the first scene.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of foreshadowing.
Oh, wow,
yes.
how about that?
We see the
family of bears who, instead of just being happy gay couples, no, they're also victims of head trauma, apparently.
We're husky, we're hairy, we're homosexual.
This is what was confusing too, is because we see like the three of them, they're already a bear family, and their their head trauma flashback is them sitting on like a big branch, all three of them together, and of course the branch cracks, and then they fall on their heads, and it's all like, so were they like non-sexual bears before that?
Were they even gay?
What is their kink specifically? This is what I would need to know.
My canon is that they were always like that, and now they're just like legitimately brain damaged, and that's why
that's why they're
all the
growling
time.
all over the place.
That's why. Yeah, that is true. We should reference
normal
that.
humans don't
that
do
is
that.
Not normal behavior. Like they go to a bear night at like a regular club, and they go roar, and it's all like, okay, laying it on a bit thick.
I live near the gay area of Vancouver, and I see bears in their like leather daddy
in their natural habitat
all the time, and I've never heard a single one of them do that. I've heard the puppy play people do that, but
I loved all the pictures of like showing people how they got their head trauma. They're like slipping on banana peels and like
it's very cartoon physics, and I like
if you're walking down the neighborhood and you see a bear, do you try to get it like as big as possible? You just like you go like, I'm here, bear!
I know you do.
I what I do is
that's what I did. That's how I attract them, yeah.
I curl up on the ground and I play dead. And I let them sniff me a little bit, and then when they move away I get back up.
That's only for black bears though.
Yeah.
If you try to do that with a grizzly, you're gonna get mauled.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So
what are we talking about?
Back to the movie. Johnny Knoxville explains that he's on a quest to find the perfect orgasm or what have you.
Well, he's trying to find...
it's a new sex move.
He's
trying to find the one sex act that hasn't been done yet.
Right.
It's a new one.
In 2004. So there was a lot that hadn't been done yet. And spoiler alert, the new sex act they come up with is very disappointing. We'll get to it though.
Was Two Girls, One Cup already out there in
No,
2004?
that was much later than that. Yeah, there's not a lot. Surprising for the filmmaker behind Pink Flamingos, there's not a lot of pooping in this movie.
He got that out of his system.
No, he actually talks about this. He's like, I already did it once, because he's
enough.
Spoken about some of the things that he's done in past things where people have asked if he would ever do like sequels to stuff, and he's like, no, I've already done this. So he doesn't tend to repeat things on purpose. It's just tropes that he repeats.
It's just themes that pop up in his movie.
It's plot beats, but it's not like individual.
So, but it's determined that Sylvia is like the 12th apostle of Ray Ray's.
Yeah, she's the key to all of this.
Yeah.
She's something of the chosen one.
Yeah, even though it doesn't really factor into the end anyways.
Yeah.
But like it doesn't make sense because there's more sex addicts out there that we find. So
sure.
It's like,
and also in terms of all of like the kinks that are laid out and everything, her kink is largely just being she's
a cunnilingus bottom.
Yeah, she receives cunnilingus.
And like what the
That's
fuck?
not that kinky.
What does that mean?
Maybe it's kinky to her because she's way too conservative.
It's just the only thing she does, I guess.
But Ray Ray is putting her on this pedestal, and her kink is actually one of the more vanilla ones that we see.
I actually think that in filmmaking regards, showing a woman getting eaten out or like having any of that kind of displayed on screen was pretty revolutionary at the time, because I think that there are like other movies that have been given R ratings for just showing a woman's face for an orgasm and stuff. I think it's one of those things where, like homosexuality, it's deeply, deeply, deeply censored. Like, because everything in media is usually centered around male pleasure, and that's the acceptable norm. And I think definitely in 2004 that would have been the case. So maybe being a cunnilingus
like you would never see James Bond go downtown.
Like I think maybe being a cunnilingus bottom was a little bit more like raunchy back then, because
like we say, we need to put ourselves back into a 2004 mindset, and a lot of this is a little more salacious than
I think Team America World Police came out around the same time too, and when they have like the puppet sex scene, I remember there being like
another movie that flirted with an NC-17 rating.
But it got rated R.
It did get rated R because it's puppets. So I think that's
aggressive, and I think that one of the main reasons for why it was like censored really heavily is because they had a woman on top and they're puppets.
Jesus.
It's just stuff
Can't
like that.
have that. That's how. Yeah.
If we are not,
what if children saw that?
yeah, if we're not centering around male pleasure, it's just it's bad. And we have to make the ratings even higher. Which because American Pie is like PG-13.
Yeah.
And that guy fucks a pie.
That guy does fuck a pie, and that movie
more graphically than anything that we see in A Dirty Shame as well.
That movie also has some not great opinions on women in general.
I've never really liked American Pie.
You know, it was a product.
It doesn't hold up well
No.
at all.
Yeah. It doesn't hold a candle to the direct-to-DVD American Pie 5: The Book of Love.
Oh,
that's the one where Jim's dad. Do you know all the American Pie sequels continue to have the character of Jim's dad, even though Jim himself, and he's always referred to as Jim's dad.
I mean, Eugene Levy needed to put food on the table.
He did. He always did until Schitt's Creek came around, and now he's celebrated as
too good for schlock.
Exactly.
So Tracey Ullman goes back to free her daughter from her imprisonment because she finds out that Johnny Knoxville also had an association with her. One thing that I wanted to bring up, and I want to see what you guys think of this. So with Ursula Utters being, locked away in the tower for most of this movie, being separated from, those sexual urges, I thought maybe an interesting avenue for this movie to go down would be that she somewhat softens whatever kind of nymphomania she has developed after what we find out is a head trauma. With her being removed from Ray Ray, and with her watching, what was that movie?
The Red Shoes, classic Powell and Pressburger, 1948.
Yeah, I would have liked if maybe that sort of awakened a new kind of inclination that she was having. Whereas instead of being an absolute prude, and instead of being a nymphomaniac, maybe there's somewhere that we could land in between these two worlds, and instead of it just being overt sexuality, what about just love? What about just love? Not just like
she
sex.
and Frank fall in love or something like that?
Something like that, yeah. So instead of it just
use his Christian name, Fat Fuck. Fat Fuck.
Yeah.
Okay, well, sorry.
I'm just saying that for having these two different camps going to war over the subject of chastity, no, hypersexuality, just wanton sleeping with anyone, no strings attached. What about just the concept of actually romantic intimacy between two people?
That does happen with Triple F though a little bit at the end because he one of the plot beats is that he is going to die without her or something like that.
And also, and there's a shifting of dynamics because there's a lot of reverse head trauma, and Ursula spends a good chunk of the third act within the grasp of the neuters, and she's saying, "I'm going to get the breast reduction surgery," and all of the other members of the bar are all like, "If you do this, Fat Fuck Frank will die."
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, Waters doesn't really have a great way to get out of that other than, she gets hit on the head again, and then everything's fine.
And it's always through some ricochet, Rube Goldberg shenanigans where it happens.
Going back to what I was saying earlier about things that I'm glad were omitted from this movie, even though I would have less of a problem with this than some of the other stuff. One of the kinks that Waters doesn't touch on is the subject of incest. And there was a moment...
I don't think that's a kink. I think that's a mental problem.
Look, it's not like a great thing. I think there are people
I don't think that's a kink. I think there's a difference between kink and there's difference between fetish and there's difference between proclivities.
That's
and
a great
orientation.
distinction, and maybe I misspoke when I included that there. I do think there are people who engage in fictional incest
that being
play,
said,
which I think is
incest
fine,
is very much already in John Waters movies. Please maybe watch.
So it's as you're saying, it's something that he's already touched on, so he felt like he didn't need to do this.
But
all of this is to say that I'm glad this scene didn't end with Selma Blair and Tracey Ullman making out, because there were moments where it felt like it was going
when they're hitting the town, or when they go back to the biker bar and there's Chris Isaak there saying snap out of it, honey. Were you worried it would have been something like well, you're my stepdad, anything like that?
It's always a stepfather. But no, it's falling under that category of what Ray was saying, was all like, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody, it's fine.
Now, to that point, later on in the movie, after Ursula Utters has had her head knocked again, and she's now on the side of the neuters, they go to a sex addict meeting. And in this scene, that's when Ray and his apostles show up there to win her back. And in fact, to actually sway all the other addicts away from this recovery journey. Now, I know, like, John Waters, the whole thing was like, okay, we're going to do like a whole lot of shock value stuff just to kind of get a rise out of people. I didn't really bat an eye at like all the sex acts up, all the overt sexy
it's very
talk.
tame.
All the stuff you were saying was like super cringy. What I actually had a bit of a problem is the idea that they're going to sway all these people who are in addictions counseling back towards their addiction. And in fact, Ray even says in his thing, our whole thing is that we want to have consent between the people. These people are choosing to avoid falling back into nymphomania, and he is overtly trying to
I see what
corrupt
you're
them
saying.
back.
I think I see what you're saying as well. I think it's entirely possible that we're thinking too hard about this.
I am definitely, like I'm saying, hey, I want to reiterate, I know, like, I do like this movie, and I'm talking about like just like little things that I'm nitpicking about.
I do think that's an interesting point, but I would also like to counter that with the only reason why the sex addicts are there is because they've been told that their sex addiction is bad and it's stigmatized, and it's because of neuter like pressure to conform. So he's just kind of walking in there being like,
don't listen to the neuters.
just be yourself, essentially, but in a very weird kind of way. But like, so I see what you're saying, but my interpretation was more, these people want to be like sex addicts. It's not, they're doing it because
they're being led down the wrong path of the neuters.
It's
basically.
like being
Ray is the sexual
actually,
in this universe,
bringing them to their fold.
If I may, earlier there's the bears at sex addict headquarters. They say something about coming out of the second closet. So I sort of see the sex addicts as being like told to go back into the closet. And so them being allowed to be like sexual is kind of them coming out of their second closet. You know what I mean?
But yeah, as we're talking about this sex addict scene, like, like a lot of the stuff, a lot of the people who stand up and say things, it's like, like in the broadest sense of the term, you could consider this to be like weird, uncivilized behavior. But this is the scene where Patty Hearst shows up in this scene as someone who like
humper.
She likes to rub up against stuff. We got the great Jackie Hoffman, who
she made me laugh a lot.
She's great. I mean, she's great in everything. Who seemingly is just kind of into everything.
I kind of thought that she wasn't acting. Like, that was my notes here. It's like, it doesn't really feel like Jackie Hoffman is acting. I bet these are all. She does make a comment though where she like takes like she roofies herself. I can't say the other. I don't know about your censors. You're gonna have such a fun time editing this.
We're not censoring.
Let me worry about
We're
that.
not censoring any
No.
of this. No. Say what you want, please.
Yeah. Well, she makes a comment. She's like, "Oh, I'm gonna date rape myself," and it's like, "Oh my goodness." Okay, okay, Jackie.
Say the word
Getting
date. Here's.
Grape.
I feel like here's the thing: is if you say like I'm going to date rape, that's a problem. But then when you add myself onto the end of it, I think it becomes okay.
I think she's just supposed to be a general free. I think she actually calls herself a chronic masturbator.
Here's something I meant to Google before the show, and I guess I'm just going to ask it as a blanket statement here and reveal myself to be ignorant, but please enlighten me. Later on, we see Jackie Hoffman in a phone booth, and she's wrapped a telephone cord. Autoerotic asphyxiation. Can women experience that as well? I thought that was primarily... They can, okay. Yeah. I thought that was primarily like a guy thing.
I'm not sure if you know this, but women can have orgasms.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, hold on. Where's my pen?
I know.
It's
crazy.
This is all good stuff.
Crazy. Do the people know?
This is breaking new ground here.
Attention, PSA.
We're going to have to change the topics on our podcast to
that's
be
actually going to be the
educational one. Educational for this one episode.
Stay tuned for Kaz's TED Talk.
That's actually going to be the one thing that you censor from me is just the female orgasm.
That women are allowed to have pleasure? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No one can know.
Yeah. Female orgasm, myth or truth?
You know,
fact or fiction?
The beep.
But at this point... Ursula has been given a bunch of Prozac, and it's somehow...
Which can, antidepressants, they really do that to a person.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah. It somehow ends up mixed up into a cup of coffee, which is then drunk by Ray, and Ray briefly loses his mojo. This feels at the moment like it's going to be a bigger plot detail until it's largely forgotten about several scenes later.
I did really like them shoveling aphrodisiacs.
Yes,
and
oysters and chocolate.
Yeah.
And,
whatever they can until he starts floating off the ground.
Spanish fly. The one dude mentions a blossom. I'm going to let you guys look that up independently. It's
all right.
Freaking nasty. Look up what a blossom is.
I have a feeling.
Yeah.
I have a feeling. I
liked when they. Oh, I don't think you do.
You know what? I'm not going to say
He's
what
just
it is.
learning about the female orgasm.
I'm gonna Google it
Yeah.
as we're recording. I'm not gonna say what it is.
I
You at
do-
home listening have to do this work yourself.
Yeah, look up what a blossom is. I do like that the medicine they gave him, like they're like, here, take your vitamins, and it's just poppers. That made me laugh.
Yeah.
Are we there in the plot now?
Where in the plot?
Like where the full-on fucking riot happens,
guess-
like the orgy riot.
Oh, okay. I guess like that's towards the end too. Like, okay, so when Ray is finally rehornified, there's like this
I don't
thing.
think I'm looking right. I'm not finding anything shocking.
Okay.
Are you looking up the show Blossom?
I'm disappointed. Yeah, it's just pictures of Mayim Bialik.
Oh no,
what
like,
it is.
I would look it up.
Turn safe search.
Look, I typed in Blossom Aphrodisiac. What should I be looking for?
No. Look it up on Urban Dictionary.
Blossom. Sorry, we're just Googling now.
This is great
It just
content.
keeps saying Powerpuff Girls. I don't know. This isn't working.
Oh.
Can you whisper it to me? Just whisper it in my ear. Don't listen at home.
Shh.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, all right, fair enough. Yeah, no, that's what I assumed
Totally
it was.
unfazed. Totally
That's what I
unfazed.
assumed it was, because as I mentioned earlier, I work in the sex toy industry, and yeah, no, I see
That made me
I see
feel-
photos of that sort of thing.
I heard that
yeah.
definition from Mr. Waters himself. So.
This is an educational movie. Yes.
But I do like when he rehornified, and when we come back to the whole like sainthood and stuff. So he like levitates in the air, and it's all angelic music and stuff. One of the things that they had tried to get him horny for, it's a nudie magazine, and then they show it to him again after he's come back to the ground, and it's like basically like the Virgin Mary, where the sex magazine is a single tear coming down like the model's face.
Yeah, the Shroud of Turin or whatever.
It's pretty funny. I like that a lot.
I feel like at this point in time, we're starting to see like the entire neighborhood, not just the people, but like the actual like.
They loved it.
Houses and shrubbery and trees are also starting to get like,
It's like-
sexified,
Like
like
something you see out of fucking Tim Burton
all
set.
of, yeah, Edward Penis Hands,
Which-
like all the yeah.
This was not a set, by the way. This was an actual.
This really happened?
This was
This is a true story. Tell your children.
This was a neighborhood, Hartford, I believe, is what it was called, in Baltimore.
Oh, you didn't
And-
say they filmed in Baltimore.
I know, they filmed
Oh
in
my
Baltimore.
gosh.
Crazy.
Oh, wow.
But the neighborhood, so it's a real neighborhood, and all of the neighbors had to be kind of on board with the filming, and apparently they loved the film crew. They loved them. They were like, thank you for bringing this to like the neighborhood. We love this.
Thank you for
And-
turning the trees into vaginas.
This is great. I got to meet Chris
Yeah.
Isaak. It's what a great day for me.
They are watching them do, like put like all this depraved stuff out and
Yeah.
stuff. But apparently this one old lady comes up to like John Waters and his crew or whatever and says that she's getting like this old elderly lady who lived in the neighborhood said that she was getting horny watching them film.
and she got a part in the movie.
And that lady was Big Ethel.
That would have been very funny if that little old lady got to be a
It would have
background.
been on brand for John
Yeah.
Waters. I feel like
I
to do
think
that.
that's
yeah.
hysterical. I liked that a lot. I thought it was hysterical.
So the neuters are realizing that they're playing they're fighting a losing war at this point. The
walls are closing in
People
on-
are starting to get concussed. Mink Stoll goes over to the sexy side and starts making out with people. It's basically just Big Ethel and Vaughn left, and they're running around trying to find the remnants of their family. The last two quote unquote normal people left in this sex crazed orgy filled
and
scenario.
soon you will be next. And
Yes.
it really is like a fucking
It
horror
basically
movie.
is. You said like a pod person thing. It basically is Kevin McCarthy running up and being all like, "They're coming for you."
Yeah. And the way that it ends is we cut to the night sky where an overhead plane is going over. And
This
who,
happened.
who should be on that plane, right?
Sorry.
But David fucking Hasselhoff as himself.
This is so random. In a movie just filled with wall-to-wall random shit, even this took me by surprise.
Do you want to hear something very random?
Please.
This has nothing to do with the movie, but everything to do with David Hasselhoff. David Hasselhoff read the eulogy for my cousin, who was in a little boy band called Together. He read the eulogy at his funeral.
Oh my god.
Yeah, when he passed away of cancer at 16. Yeah, Michael Cuccione.
Wow.
Yeah, they had the whole friggin' streets of Vancouver like shut down for this.
Look
it up.
Do you have a familial connection to David Hasselhoff?
No,
or-
I was like maybe 6 when this happened, but that's our familial connection. Is my cousin Michael, who is related to me through his mom, and he was in Baywatch. They made this fake boy band called Together, and he was called QT. And they like regularly featured in Baywatch, but then they became like a real boy band, and they toured with like Britney Spears and stuff like that.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
It was a big thing
That's
in-
like the best thing that we've talked about so far this evening. Not that your cousin
I was gonna
died.
say, like,
that
like
is sad. That's incredibly tragic.
A family
but yes.
member of hers died.
I know. Well,
I mean, whatever.
fucking-
That happened in like 99. So
Yeah, she was 4.
you know,
Sorry.
yes, it was very very young.
Anyway,
David Hasselhoff has to go to the
he
lavatory.
takes a big stinky poop.
And a thing that apparently really happens every once in a while.
Not with like the regularity that movies and
but-
TV would have you think.
No, but there is,
it has happened. Yes.
I forget what the fucking term
It's
is.
called blue ice.
Blue ice, yeah. Where not the fuselage, but like wherever like the shit goes in
It's
an
a
airplane.
prominent joke in Joe Dirt, if you've
Yeah.
ever seen
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it escapes from the airplane and it falls from the heavens and it hits Chris Isaak in the head, and rather than fucking killing him, it turns him into a sex addict. And now,
So
and that's our fucking happy
So
ending.
he
of it.
left-
it hits,
redemption.
it hits Chris Isaak on the head. What knocks Big Ethel out? Because Big Ethel...
Doesn't she have a heart attack?
Yeah, she has a heart attack. Big Ethel... Like,
And then Ray
straight
revives her
up
because
dies.
he is like an actual
Yes.
sexual saint. Like there is
It-
like a supernatural element to this
It
fucking
seemed
movie.
like for a while that Big Ethel was going to escape through the sweet release of death, but no, Ray, you won't even let her have that. He
Yeah.
brings her back, and,
Yeah.
and she's part of it too, and I think she...
Even in death,
she
you
has
will.
she has a threesome with the coroners who are
Yeah.
taking her body away.
And then the whole movie ends with everybody headbutting each other for a
Yeah.
Which
for
is
some reason.
the new sex act that they came up
That's
with.
the
Smashing each other in the
Which
face.
is a bit of an anticlimax, I will say. Hey, I didn't even mean to
Hey.
make that joke. Hey,
Hey, well, Johnny Knoxville turns into a penis rocket and goes to space.
Yeah.
yes, and then comes all over the screen,
Yeah.
and then the credits roll with jizz literally streaking down the thing, and there we go. That's John Waters' final filmic statement. Very, very fitting, I think, for what he
Yeah.
wanted to put out there.
I think jizzing in the face of Hollywood is hysterical.
Yeah.
Of course, more movies should do it.
Do that.
There was an entire
I mean,
movie.
like, well, you're saying that like, oh, it's a shame that he hasn't made another movie. How do you top that?
Well, okay, so here's the thing that I wanted to touch on earlier is that John Waters hasn't made another movie since this.
No.
That's not through his lack of trying. He has said numerous times he would love to make another
Too
movie.
expensive.
The issue is that people, he cannot find the financing for it.
Crowdsource.
And he does not want to make. There's a literal
man.
quote from him that says, like, I used to make like movies for like $30 with my buddy. I'm not that filmmaker anymore. I have ideas for films. I want a proper budget. I want someone to give me a budget of over $1 million.
I think that's fair, but
Which to us that seems like no big deal, but like for a film
Well-
is still reasonably priced, but he cannot find anyone to give him the financing that he needs. He wrote a novel a few years ago called, what is it called? Do you know? Liar Mouth. And that almost got made. It was going to star Aubrey Plaza, but it fell apart last year in 2024. So, like, he's still actively trying to get a movie made, but he has principles, and he is sticking to them,
Yeah,
and
well,
he
Wow.
should,
he
because
deserves
he's an
it.
absolute legend. And again, we're tying into connections of other directors that we've talked about. It's largely the same problem that David Lynch ran into. David Lynch had, like, a bunch of ideas in his later years,
it's-
but he couldn't find the funding for it. No one would give it to him.
it's not okay. I feel like saying that they can't get the funding is kind of reducing it a little bit, just because it's not a matter of them not getting. They could get funding, like they could, but they would have to make a movie that studios would have to approve of. They would be neutered, essentially. Like, you know, and now, especially with filmmaking, it's become, I mean, it's always been a business in Hollywood, but I think that the problem that both he and David Lynch are running into is the death of auteurship.
Yeah.
Because of corporations just having way too much power in, like, there's no creative license anymore. You make the movie that they tell you to make.
Or films becoming products themselves.
Yeah,
you know.
or you go so indie that you like have to shell. Like, I'm sure John Waters could make this movie with his own budget and stuff, but then they'd have to deal with distribution, and so it's budget, but it's also like there's so many other moving parts and stuff too. Like,
and a director of his caliber and his
he's not going to
history-
want people ruining what he's written.
And he also doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that would want to do a lot of cost saving measures
No.
at this stage. He's done too much and he's earned his stripes.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to take a step backwards.
100%.
Because look, there are examples of people who self-finance their own movies and release them on an independent level without studio involvement. The most obvious example is Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith hasn't made a studio movie in over a decade, but the difference there is that he finances his movies and they get these small rollouts and they only get smaller audiences to see them.
Yeah.
Now I know that's probably the type of audience that John Waters is interested in reaching, but also, he's an older fella now, and I imagine he just wants to make a film his way. He's not interested in doing it any other way.
A John Waters A24 movie. I think that would be sick.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. There's definitely room in the film landscape for him now.
Also so ridiculously busy all the time. He says that he's booked 6 months after he's dead. He's so busy, and he just he prefers to write books.
Yeah,
sure.
And he's good at it, and eventually someone decent will come and adapt one of them, I would hope. But
hopefully it won't be until he passes away.
I feel like his estate will be very monitor who would
but
want
very protective of his work.
Yeah.
But his legacy is cemented. Hairspray continues to be an incredible hit on Broadway. Crybaby also got turned into a Broadway musical.
It did, yeah.
I've heard less about that one.
The music is really good for that one.
I should check that one out. Yeah. But is there anything else about A Dirty Shame that we wanted to talk about? And then after that, Chloe, was there any other Waters talk that you wanted to throw in here before we wrap up?
Sure. Well, I just wanted to say for A Dirty Shame, the budget for it was $15 million, and the total box office globally that it made was $1.9 million, and it has a lot to do with that corporate censorship. He was contracted to make an R-rated movie, but unfortunately the studio came in and made it NC-17, and because that man doesn't want to compromise, which is fair, it got really stifled, because when you make an NC-17 movie, your distribution is so much more difficult. So they made, for home distribution and for airlines and cable, they made a version called Neuter Vision, where they changed certain words like dildo to sex toy and things like that. And it's
because that was the big problem with it. Was the word dildo?
Yeah.
That was
now you can bring the kids.
I would also like to list off some of the Dreamlanders that are in the film, because I think that's really interesting. So all the top people here I have we're also all in Pink Flamingos and keep popping up again. So we have Mink Stoll.
Big Ethel's friend.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Legendary Mink
I can't remember
Stoll,
what her name was in the movie.
Her name was Mink.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so she was also Connie Marbles, iconically, in Pink Flamingos. We also have Marianne Vivian Pierce. I also think she just made a really brief background cameo, but
she's the only other actor other than Mink Stoll who's been in every movie.
No.
Yes?
So she's the only actress who has been in every single one. So Mink Stoll was not in the earlier ones.
I see. Okay.
The short films and stuff. So Marianne Vivian Pierce actually was. Channing Wilroy was also in this movie from Pink Flamingos, as was George Figs, and he is more of a background guy. But Channing Wilroy plays the butler in Pink Flamingos, who inseminates the women that are kidnapped to give their babies to lesbians. And we have George Figs, and then Pat Moran, who I think is really interesting. She wasn't actually in acting in A Dirty Shame, but she was casting director and producer. Now, Pat Moran is worth noting to me because she plays Patty Hitler in Pink Flamingos, who is the journalist lady. Basically, she's a Nazi reporter and stuff. She's pretty funny. And then, but even more important, Pat Moran owned the dog that pooped in Pink Flamingos. So the dog shit that Divine eats, essentially, came from Pat Moran's dog. We have Vincent Peranio, who is production design, who has been there since Pink Flamingos and has pretty much worked on every single John Waters movie. Same thing with Van Smith, who did the makeup and costume design. We also get a little cameo from Ricky Lake.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, but it was an actual clip of the Ricky Lake show,
which I thought was really funny. And then Gene Hill, of course. So those are the Dreamlanders that show up in this movie. There's always lots of Dreamlanders.
What an interesting career trajectory for Ricky Lake. It's obviously I was familiar with her in the 90s because she had her daytime TV show, and then I found out, she also has this secondary career as an actor, primarily in John Waters movies. She does a small handful of other stuff, and then in the 2000s just vanished. Like, she didn't do daytime TV anymore. She wasn't in acting. She just kind of retired. Which is great.
Yeah.
Like, it's great when people get out of the entertainment industry, but it's...
Well, I imagine that if John Waters were to make more movies, she would have been in them.
Sure, I mean,
Now,
she has a cameo in the Hairspray musical. I think that's the last time she was seen in
because she
public.
was the original Tracy Turnblad.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. And she's great in Serial Mom.
Yeah.
Final thoughts, Jameson?
Well, I mean, all the things we didn't cover, we can just go right into certain something.
Okay, so Dirty Shame. I think I have a decent vibe about how we're all feeling about this one, but I'll ask the question I ask at the end of every episode. Does this movie have a certain something, or is it a whole lot of nothing? Chloe?
Oh, it's a lot of something.
It's a whole lot of something.
Agreed.
I mean, it's a whole lot of bunch of things.
There's a bunch of somethings in here to draw the eye.
A lot of personality.
A lot of Selma Blair to draw the eye.
A lot of Selma Blair's personality.
What a classy lady, though.
Yeah.
She's so...
I love Selma Blair.
But so... It's so funny. Like, going into something like this, like my first exposure to John Waters, his last ever film like this, I did have like some reservations on just like how good it was going to be, and also given like my impression based on just like the small snippets of it. Really impressed with the amount of creativity and just how funny it was. That all said, the little nitpicky things that I was sort of just offering up to John Waters are suggestions he would never take. The premise was so sound. And I think it's almost a film that could write itself had they just gone into the super hacky screenwriter territory that I think would have helped the story along. But that's just not how John Waters rolls. So yeah, I could see this making these little left turns or right turns to veer into something that I'd be a little bit more familiar with.
Yeah.
But that's not what you're signing up for this guy.
I would say this is not a good start on John Waters movies.
But it's the one you have. So.
It's the one I got,
it's the second worst movie that he's made.
Really?
Pecker Bean.
Oh, right, yeah. So, but the less said about that one, the better.
About Pecker.
Yeah,
At least I had fun watching this one.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun.
I also didn't hate Pecker. Like, when I say least good is still pretty good. It's still better than a lot of people's best attempts, you know?
I'm just going to work off of what you were saying, Jameson. Like, yes, there are alternate branching ways you could see the premise of this movie going. In particular, what I said earlier about like this is his take on like a zombie film. You could potentially see this, like the main characters of this movie, like the Stickles family, could be more openly, outwardly conservative, and this could be almost like viewed as like a pearl-clutching conservative's nightmare idea
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
What it is like. I think it started off as that, and then it just got sloppier and sloppier as they went on, and I don't think anyone really gave a crap.
I think their message...
That's fine.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I think that the movie, as it turns out, is fine. Look, every once in a while we cover a movie like this that is just so monumentally stupid.
Yeah.
Your Hamburger, the motion pictures, You're Back by Midnights. I always have a great fucking time watching them. I laughed so hard at this. I thought this was just like an absolute delight.
I think it's a lot of fun. I think a premise like this could be revisited again.
This is so much more. This movie is so much more relevant now than I think it was in 2004.
Well, people are talking about this kind of stuff way more.
Are also
people are normalized
regressive and stuff as well too. And it's kind of like I feel like neuters are coming up a lot, and a lot of the Gen Zs that are like and Puritans of Gen Alphas and stuff like that. They're very like conservative that way as well.
Well, sure. I mean, like, there's this big movement now from like not the millennial. What's the current
Gen Z and Gen Alpha?
Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Like, there's this new thing of all like kids don't want to see sex scenes in movies.
I don't either. I'm sorry. I'm kind of with them on that, but I also feel like I support an authorship with the directors to include it. I just personally fast forward through those bits.
Hey, all right.
I find them boring. I don't know.
Well, that's because they're not done well.
Yeah. Well, I think like a
Euphoria, like where it's all unnecessary sex scenes. Then yes, I fully understand that.
Yeah, I think like if they were to like revisit this kind of premise again, there would be like sort of an overall message where like love.
Yeah. But
isn't that a little better than just meaningless sex?
I do think like I think a lot of like the dialogue about this also leaves out like some of those scenes are like supposed to be for intimacy, like to show like when it's well shot and everything like that. But what I think they have a problem with, which is also like low-key, like I would rather not watch this, is just gratuitous for the sake of doing it. I'm like, oh my god, every single time, like what a waste of 5 minutes. So Sorry, that's my hot take, but I'm also not a film person. I don't work in film.
You could have fooled me with the amount of research that you did on this.
I like
you
this.
You brought it for this.
I'm also not sycophantic for directors or like celebrity culture in general. I just like this.
There with you, sister.
I like this one little weirdo who speaks to me as a little weirdo. Like I've got like strange things all over my house. I collect bones from the woods and I make jewelry from it. Like I've always been an odd duck, and I always found that John Waters movies really spoke to me because that's an obvious weirdo who does puppet shows. Like that's odd.
And that's important. I think that's important for people to kind of seek that out. Like they'll know that there is art and artists out there for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's just a beacon of, and I love trash movies. I wouldn't be here if I didn't, but I love trash. I love the Pope of Trash.
You're a bit of an Oscar the Grouch, you might say. You love trash, everything dirty or dingy.
Yeah, but like if Oscar the Grouch was like a Muppet who is always smiling and kind of goofy, like that's me.
You're Oscar's second cousin.
I'm Oscar's really annoying cousin. Yeah. No, that's true, really. But yeah, thank you so much for letting me babble about John Waters.
Thank you for being here. Yes, obviously you were the right person to come on and talk about this particular subject. And
if you ever want to talk about another John
and fucking
Waters movie.
school us at our own game.
Yeah,
Jesus.
absolutely. Well, I feel like we probably have to pencil in a Pecker episode at some point in time in the near future.
Well,
or just a movie night. Jesus.
Or you know what? Eventually we could get around to just watching movies again for fun.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Oh man, remember that? Remember those days?
I remember enjoying movies.
Oh boy.
If you ever want to have me back and talk more about John Waters,
doors wide open.
There's more to talk about, and there's also his 3 short films that I don't feel ever get talked about enough, which is Eat Your Makeup, Girl in the Black Leather Jacket.
A great title, Eat Your Makeup.
Mondo Trash Show. Eat Your Makeup's fun. It's about models who are kidnapped and forced to eat their makeup and model to death. It's great.
Well, it's quite literal then. Mm-hmm. So you may not have an answer for this, but just point blank out of the blue, if we were to invite you back, is there anyone other than John Waters you might be remotely interested in talking about?
So
you love trash. Is there anyone else that falls under that umbrella?
When it comes to directors, I feel like John Waters is the only one I'm extremely familiar with, but I've watched so many shitty movies that I would love to talk about any of them. One of my favorite shitty movies, and don't ask me who directs it because I have no idea, is Helen Keller versus the Nightwolves.
Oh my god.
Oh Jesus.
So good. It's so good. It's exactly what it sounds like.
Nice. It's your episode material right there.
I used to be really into watching a lot of strange art house movies, and I kind of I'm more of on the horror side of it, and I personally flew a little bit too far, too close to the sun, and I watched some things, and I really it really burned some things into my brain, and it made me hard stop with a lot of that. So I'm kind of getting back into watching weird movies. But for me, it started out with Zardoz, and it just got progressively more odd than that. And maybe it's because I smoke weed and I used to do acid, but I really love weird movies.
All right.
I watched Zardoz, and I was actually disappointed that it wasn't as weird as I thought it was going to be. It was actually pretty normal.
As a 17-year-old on acid, it was pretty good.
Hey, fair enough. That's probably my mistake.
Yeah, wrong state of mind.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Chloe.
Oh my God.
And that was John Waters' A Dirty Shame. If you liked this episode, please check out our back catalog of episodes. If you go further into the back catalog, you will notice the name of the podcast is now The Fuck Is This? Don't worry about it. It's the same show. It's Jameson and me and sometimes a guest, but sometimes not. And we're just talking about movies. And the thing that makes it different from other movie podcasts on the internet is that we have a little fun with it.
Nobody else has fun on
no
their
one
show.
else has fun. We're just having a little fun.
Nope.
We're just tossing around.
Nope.
We're just having some laughs, and we don't take it that seriously. We're just having some fun. You can follow us on some of the social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, and I think that's probably that's it. Those two. You can follow us on those two. Yeah. You can thank Eddie Lamb for his fantastic theme music, because that's
what he does. That's what he do.
That's what he do. You can follow me on Letterboxd. I'm Kaz Lesgard.
You can subscribe to my YouTube channel where I used to make cartoons. And you can subscribe to our Spotify and our YouTube and all that good stuff.
Just subscribe.
Yeah. Consume.
Consume.
And in the immortal words of John Waters, zap. Zap.
I love you, man.
I love you too, bud.